I can't even begin to tell you what an honor it is to be here, and I thank you, President Hubbard, for doing this and convening this group, because this is really important, because we are the stewards of the legal community, and as the Chief Judge of the bench in Oregon, you know, the stewards in a very short time to manage the court into the next generation. And so it's really important that we have these conversations, because we are getting weighted down in so many different ways. So on the first slide, I really want you to take a look at my little character down there. We're not looking for coins, we're looking for change. This is who we're trying to empower. It's important that people understand that when you look at the problems, they're multifaceted and they all come in different categories. The public's access to justice is limited. We know that in Oregon we've had just a very difficult economy, as most have, but really an access to justice, and it closed most recently our legal aid clinic in Portland. 25 years of having a legal services clinic is now closed. The law students, the debt load in Oregon is just astounding, and there are no jobs. And more importantly, we have just a burgeoning number of people coming out of prison. 650,000 people across the country come out of prison every year, and we don't have the resources nor the ability to supervise them. And if you think the federal system is the gold standard, my dirty little secret is that an intense supervised individual in the federal system means one visit a month. So how are we handling some of these problems? We have looked at how to begin to bring people to the table, and what this conference is doing, along with others that we're doing in the states, is to galvanize and bring people together. And I would suggest to you that your judicial community, we have the ability to leverage our judicial authority to bring people to the table. And when we did that, we talked about the common problems and ways to solve them. We held a huge summit at the federal institution, and we brought everyone to the table, and we looked at where we could make a difference. And so we started off addressing the numbers of people coming back into the community and recycling right back to the federal prisons. So we built, by using and reading bodies of literature, all the best practices. We redesigned our probation office for an evidence-based practice working group. We use technology. I'm a big believer in outcomes and analytics. And we designed a system that isn't about cookie-cutter solutions. It's about individualized service delivery system to identify the particular problems. In other words, I would tell you, we got out of our silos and we have a medical model. And we've drawn on the best practices in the medical community, and I would tell you that one of the greatest opportunities has been the direction and leadership by the Federal Judicial Center in bringing together the legal practices program at Harvard with the Harvard Medical School to look at our models, and the work we've done here at Stanford with the neuroscience programs, as well as their incredible criminal justice system. So look at how we look at different bodies and do work differently. So here's the cycle. This is what we're trying to break. And if people don't understand the numbers with regard to prisons, we are sending so many people to prisons that what is happening is they're away for so long that when they come back, if we think it's difficult to keep up in the technology world, they have no ability to sustain. And when they come out and go to grocery stores, the choices they have to make in a grocery store are overwhelming. The fact that they can't even begin to use a computer and leverage any kind of access is amazing. So what we found in doing supervision is if you just, put somebody out and surveil them, you have really no impact. If you do some supervision with some services, we have a bit of an impact. But when we start to use responsivity, that is the data that drives what we do for an individual, we start to have a huge impact. So in my lifetime, we've gone from zero data usage in the federal system to actually starting to mine that data. And when we mine that data, and you can't see it really specifically, but we've never really mined the data to look for outcomes. If you look at our population of those we've served in our reentry program, and what I will tell you, it's a whole different model. It's a team approach with the prosecutor, the judge, the probation officer, the public defender, the service providers, and all the participants around a table problem solving with 4 key components: truth, transparency, trust, and trying. And we work intensively with individuals to make a difference, and we measure the outcome, and we use the data to drive what our next decisions will be. Here's the proof in the pudding. You can take a look across the axis and see what it costs to have someone in a federal prison bed. The costs are right there. And when we did the mathematics on just the population we've served, and mind you, it goes to an issue that was raised by Ron Stout earlier, it's all taking this to scale and building capacity, but you got to build the models first. when we've really worked with people, the average revocation, sending somebody back to prison for a violation, means a 9-month sentence. So we calculated, and we did an economic analysis of what the cost savings were just for the 160-some people who'd been through our program, and we were saving the state, from an Oregon perspective, just a little Oregon, about $1.6 million just in this small population. So if we take it to scale, you can only imagine what we'll save. Now, when we started back in 2005, there was only really one program, and I give credit to the Eastern District of New York, because Judge Sifton had a program that was started, but it was really a modest little model of a judge really calling people back. And basically now we have increased the number of, across the country, judge to judge, grassroots efforts of programs, and that number there is old because I was just in DC, and we have 72 programs in 94 districts. So across the country, we are doing different work, and we're doing it in a rate that's amazing. But it's not enough. So I had the privilege of being invited down to Reinvent Law Silicon Valley, and I would suggest that Renee Kanaki and as well Dan Katz, who ran the program at Michigan State Law School, were amazing leaders in bringing people together, where I met so many folks who are here today, but we had the chance to bring them a problem. I'm not a tech person, I have an ability to use a reciprocal mentoring with students. 130 law students working full-time in my chambers has taught me a great deal about what I need to know about the next generation of lawyers. But more importantly, it brought me down to say, I've got a problem. So we posed that problem, and I said, what I really, really need is I need a device to give to my people coming out of prison. Because what we learned in our reentry program, and our most powerful tool, was the cell phone. Every person in our reentry program has the cell phone of a team member. I am one phone call removed. In other words, the defendants don't have my direct line, but all the team members do. And so I can solve problems. Somebody was talking about it earlier. I get 24/7, 7 days a week, and I can sit over here, which I have, answer a text and respond what we need to do. That's justice. Whoever raised that question about being available 24/7, night court, not outside getting into work maybe at 9, leaving at 4, or maybe taking some work home. That's not the model anymore. It's really about service delivery. So we have this model now in play. And I had an opportunity to go back again, thanks to Dan Katz and to the Reinvent Law, and I got to go to a hackathon, and I went to Law Tech, and I went to Reinvent Law in New York, and I had an opportunity to present to this hackathon the idea of building a smartphone, a Fitbit, if you will, something that we could start measuring and using resources to have people measure how they're doing and to have dashboards. Now, think about driving a decision-making process in the federal government that's based on evidence and based on data. And so we don't fund failure, we don't guess. We actually know what the data is. So if you're a probation officer with a huge caseload and you come in on Monday and you find, looking at your dashboard, the 6 or 7 people who missed every single appointment, missed everything they were supposed to do you have a problem figuring out what you need to do that day, or do you hone in on what you need to focus on right off the bat? And then when you find out why they failed, figuring out what we need to do differently. Because again, what we have learned in this medical model is we don't take services away when they have a problem. We up them. We figure out what the issue is because we have built trust. And one of the things I will tell you that I've learned the most on the federal bench and in the state court system, 27 years doing judicial work, is the judges oftentimes don't use their most important power. The most important power we have is good power. The ability to inspire and to provide incentives and to bring people the opportunity to do better work. Dan Lear has been working with a group of us. They're all committed right now to devise this device and to use it and to put it into operation. And we are so close. We met this week with an interesting gentleman, a banker, who got on a ski lift with a probation officer, and he just devised this entire system to do summons in New York. Fabulously well off as a result of that, but the probation officer said, I need your services. So he started designing a compliance situation where it's just really about compliance. And he was in the ABA journal, Mike Kingley. So we saw it. Mark Sherman, Federal Judicial Center, and I got on the phone with him and said, what we're finding is it's the helping services that make a big difference. And we had a huge conference call. We met earlier this week. We brought in some of the agencies that have a Yelp system for services in a community, and an NGO, and We brought them together, and he is helping us redesign a model that we will prototype in Oregon, and I think we will have something that's really efficient and will really drive how we make some decisions in the criminal justice system. So what does that tell us? And I'm going to hang up my comments, but I want to tell you it leads us to how we're going to deal with the civil justice system, because what we've learned are all the collateral civil issues, and I have to honestly say my goal is to use what's done with A2J and to beg Ron Stout to come to Oregon. We are small potatoes, but to beg him to come out here and help us design what we need as the next generation for the civil practice. So don't underestimate the ability of the judges to help you. Thanks.